So I'm back. Unfortunately I had a power outage here at the house. So I've lost about 4 hours of time from the day when uh I couldn't use a computer except my laptop. And even on my laptop, I didn't have internet, so I couldn't sync up with the most recent version of the project. But I made the most of it, and um, I did a little bit of writing to just fill in content, stuff I would have done tomorrow, but couldn't do. But stuff I would have done tomorrow, except that since I didn't have the option to keep making progress. According to my original plan, I decided to just sort of wing it and kind of make some notes, and it'll have to get patched in, which will be a little bit annoying. But I did, just doing the best I can with what was available for the time being. Not much else I can do about that. So, yeah, we'll make do. Not going for 10 hours anymore. I did 2.5 hours earlier today, and I'll probably go for 3 to 4 hours now. Um, and that'll have to be good enough. Let's see. I think that I'm on my laptop here for a second, getting the notes that I did on here synced up. All right. Pop in here. Yep. All right. Building is working. So we can ignore the notes for now. I'll show you real quick what I mean by I took notes. Since I was on an old, um, I was on like a 4 or 5 day old copy of the repository, and I didn't have internet to sync it up to what was most recent. I just put a bunch of stuff here into the temp writing file that will eventually, maybe tomorrow or later tonight, I'll copy and paste it piece by piece into the actual code, and that way don't have to do all the work of thinking of how to fill in pieces for the game. But it's still going to be kind of a chore, so I'm not going to start that now because that would take all night, actually, because there's a lot of pieces there that are only half finished, and I have to spend a little time tweaking them and plugging them in and adding them to the generators and stuff. So we're going to try to get back to what I had in mind. Unfortunately, my to-do list was in a Scratch buffer, which I've lost. But let's see. I don't think I lost anything major. I think all the files should have been saved, and the hard drive doesn't look like it was corrupted. So I should be able to just go in here. And why don't we run it to see if we've got... Yeah, I entered the dungeon. I still have this little thing that I did earlier today down here. So this is the new player status display stuff. And I was just getting ready to say, before the power went out, that what I think I want to do next is work on an inventory system so I can pick up items and have them appear underneath here. And I'm going to do that without having like inventory management be super complicated, which means there's going to be no inventory max right now. And therefore, I want to balance it out by controlling how many inventory items I provide, because you can just carry everything. And you'll automatically pick up everything you see. So given that, I'll control how much stuff I actually dole out, but I also want to think about, like, am I going to have this scrolling up as it goes, or should I shift this to the top and just have like an items list that expands down? And I think the second option sounds better to me, so I will make that change first. So earlier today, I put that stuff into the side string thing, which is still fresh, but I also, like, it's still fresh as a new piece of the system that I haven't had experience with. And I've also not touched it for 3 hours, 4 hours, so it's a little bit like I gotta go remember what I was doing to make this work. I wonder if I could get away with letting the layout of that stay the same. 1900, 1920. If you subtract 1200 from that, you leave 700. This might not be quite enough space for both of them. We'll see. It'd be cool if this didn't affect the layout at all, and it just was a second thing that got added in. But if they start overlapping with each other, that's a problem. Yeah, so when we go to position this string, right now I was putting it at the bottom. I'm just going to change this to say, put it at the top, which would look like this. And that's, I'm good with that. So then underneath that, I'm going to put the items label, and then the items label, and then if you start picking up items, they would go there. So let's see. After this, I will put a spacer and another spacer. This will just say items. And I could set the color to something other than basic. What colors do I have in the color palette that might be appropriate? I could use Q1. That relates to items in the first screen. Right, so what I might do here is items, creature, item, creature, lore. And we already have one called lore, so that'll drop. I'm gonna just, because the whole calling them keys was originally because I didn't know more about the game yet. Keep that color, but make it the lore color. Oh wait, that's item. There we go. And just as a test, if I had a number of flasks, I could do this. So it would look like that is wrong. So we want last child there. Okay. And what's this look like? I'm gonna actually make this smaller. And I'm gonna say, does this look like if I max out the use of width of horizontal space? When does it wrap? So it wraps right there. So you can see we don't have enough room for this to be this wide and for this to be this wide. So I think this could afford to be more narrow. I don't think I want the lines to get much longer than, say, that point right there. So instead of 400, let's try 350 for the width of that section. And that seems pretty good. Let me try making these smaller so they have more opportunities to wrap. Yeah, so you can see when I do that, it then is able to fit in on that line and be a little too wide again. So 350, let's drop it down to 333 and see if that's good. Okay, so that gets us down to there. And again, decreasing the granularity, so I'm getting to smaller and smaller granularity tests each time. And making smaller adjustments. Does that still look good? It does. What if I do this, which will shift it a little bit? That also looks good. So I think that this is a good, width. Get rid of this. And then we'll have to do something like this, right? So we're going to have the player entity lives here. I'm going to have something like a list of items. Iterate those, and then a game entity is going to have to expand in its design to include a stack count. And we're also going to want to get the item label right there. In order to get the item label down here, we've got this thing that does din string. I'm going to have this return just string 8. Same way we did with the fragment function. Very sloppy naming and organization happening at this point, but it's fine. It's fine for this, for the purposes of jamming. Okay. All right, so we're getting into it. We're getting into it here, and I'm gonna need some background music. For myself. If you're hanging out and listening, you don't hear the background music because this is a bring your own music stream. What are we dealing with here? Thought we just actually defined this though, didn't we? Here's QU fragment. Oh, I called it straight. That's fine. So, now if I did ever find an entity that was an item, what I would want to do is scan the existing inventory and add it here. So what I might do is I might test this out by removing key count from the game. And then what we have to do is player has a key. Now it's going to become a more expensive computation. But don't worry. We're not doing anything important yet. So nobody cares right now. So if we're going along and we find an item whose type or whose game keyword is key, then that's a key item. And of course we want to assume check that the item's stack count is greater than 0. If it isn't great, if its stack count is equal to 0, then it should have been removed from the inventory list anyways. But we just want a little bit of redundancy. We want a little bit of redundancy there in case things go wrong, so that the game works as close to correctly as possible in the face of some error. Now, these get key and use key items, get key I think we're going to replace. I'm going to replace it with QU item pickup. And this will be a more generic version of the idea. So instead of having get key, it'll be like item pickup, and I'll give it an entity pointer. And I think I might also need to say what region it comes from, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at that entity. And if it is new, I don't have an entity like it in my inventory, I will make a new entity. I won't actually take the original. If the entity already exists, if there's an item of that same kind in my inventory already, I'll be reusing that and incrementing the stack counter. Either way, this entity is actually going to go into the list of used up items, right? It's going to be like, we've used up this key, as in the one that was sitting in the dungeon is gone. There's now an identical one sitting in the inventory of the user, but we don't, like, I don't have a sophisticated entity system where I want to transfer the entity from being sort of a dungeon entity to an inventory entity or anything like that right now. So when you pick up an entity, the copy that you're picking up is owned by the dungeon and gets moved to the dungeon's sort of graveyard of old entities that are no longer interactive, and a equivalent one gets materialized that is owned by sort of the player inventory system and stuck into the inventory. That's the plan. So that's why I need the region. And then what we'll do is we'll say, all right, I'm going to grab a local copy of the key off of that, just to ensure the compiler doesn't think that it needs to read off this pointer multiple times. And I'm going to loop over all of the entities in the inventory. And if I find a matching slot in the inventory, I'll know because its key will match the entity key there. And so I'll save that into my match. If no match, allocate an entity slot, a slot in the inventory. Okay. So if the match equals 0, what we're going to do is we're going to go, let's see, items first. Items free list is going to be like right here. And we'll go, okay, let's set the match to the game state logic items free. So that's going to be a stack. If match now is non-zero, then we need to pop that stack by 1. Otherwise, we need to push a new entity onto the world arena. And we're going to set that key, that entity to have the entity key there. And well, either way, let's do this first. Let's memory 0 out the one we get, because it might have some stale values if it comes from here. Right, so there. Either way, now we're getting a zeroed out version. And we also want to plug that into the inventory list. Okay, so now we have a match either way. Either we found an existing match or we constructed a new one and filled it and put it into the list. Now, the final step is increment the item slots stack counter. So every item will be stackable, keeping it simple. I'm going to use the stack count from the entity. Now that has one risk associated. It might be very easy to accidentally spawn an item entity with a count of 0, right? So I have 2 ways I could handle that. I could say that this is a minimum of 1. So I could check that and just say it's always worth 1 if it says 0. The other thing I could do is try to make a careful entity constructor for items that doesn't allow that mistake. Since stack count of 0 would always be meaningless, I think in this case, I'm actually going to say we're just going to build it in as a sort of unbreakable rule at this level. That you have at least 1 in the stack of the thing you're adding to your inventory whenever you ask to add something to your inventory. If later it turns out that I do want to pass a 0 around as like a no-op intentionally, I'll be surprised, but I'll be happy to learn something more sophisticated that goes on in the system and update it. But for now, I think that this seems most likely like the path to success. So that's how you pick up an item. These all need to go through the logic block. Now, to use a key is to say, well, let's look at the place where use key gets called. This is in game action use key. Yeah, we're going to change this. We're going to say this becomes use item to use game action or game key and that'll look like that. So use key goes away. And instead, this is going to look kind of like this at first. So we're going to grab the game state and look for a match. This time, if we find a match, and we'll also use that to say, yes, we did in fact succeed at using that item. So if you try to use an item that isn't really there, we'll have this sort of backup path for controlling the behavior. And then if afterwards the stack count has achieved emptiness, we will remove it from items first, last, so the items list, and we will push that onto the items free list so that that node can get recycled when a future item pickup occurs. This function just goes away completely. And here, keys will no longer be built in like it's Binding of Isaac. They'll actually be an inventory thing. And so then the last thing we have to do here to make this all work again is I go back to my key properties. By the way, if it's confusing that I keep saying the word key and it means two different things, you should know that when I talk about game keys or like the key properties of the game, I'm talking about keywords. The fact that one of the keywords happens to be key as in the thing that unlocks a door is just a little bit unfortunate. So yeah, I'm going to add this new property type instead of using the label, because the label is what appears when this item happens to show up in the dungeon. We use the label. When it shows up as an item in the inventory, I'll use the inventory label. Okay, so that's close to good, except I lost the padding because of the way that was arranged. There we go, that's good. Now if we explore, fight the bat, explore, fight the bat, explore, fight the bat, explore, fight the dog, explore, leave the chest, explore, leave the stairs, explore, guard against the dog, guard against the dog. Okay, he fights me, I fight him, explore. All right, and look at that. I picked up a key. Now it says 1 keys, and I think that's fine. If I was trying to make this more polished, what I would do is encode a singular and plural variant for each item. But I think that the constraints of my situation right now give me the feeling that it would be better to just take the weird hit of it saying 1 keys for now, and let the player realize that like it's because this number varies. So now if I return to the locked chest and I use a key, okay, so that says 0 keys when it should have been removed from the list. So it did set this to 1. But it just doesn't feel like it noticed that the stack count was at 0, which it should have noticed, right? Oh, either that or I have a typo. All right. Fight the bat, explore quickly, leave the chest, explore quickly, fight the bat. You know something? I don't like how it feels for the like turn counter to be up here. Like I feel like it felt better down here. Something about the layout now, I'm much less likely to notice. I'm gonna try something. First of all, let's finish testing the thing I'm trying to test by removing enemy spawning, and let's go find a key. Okay, got a key. Gonna go back upstairs, and I'm going to go to the locked chest, and I'm gonna use a key, and okay, so that is the way I want it to be. I can explore thoroughly until I've uncovered everything, and I can go downstairs, and that's good. So there's the key opening the chest and getting removed from the inventory. Now I'm gonna say, first of all, we're only gonna put down the items label if there is at least 1 item in the list to render out. I don't like it saying items and then just being blank. I'm also going to slide this down here. So I suspect that I can override the paragraph length to 15 if we're going to like put this thing in, right? So that'll be a good trick to test. And finally, I'm gonna just do something maybe a little more wacky than it's worth, but I want to try it. What if I put this on the bottom again? I really liked it when it was on the bottom. I don't have a solution for the fact that it's now going to scroll up as the items appear underneath it. Wait, that's at the center. Bottom of the window dim. Minus, oh. Minus the side layout rect Y1. Okay. So now the effect that I'll have is it's down here at the bottom. If I start exploring, it looks like this. Leave the chest. Now I've got a key and this whole thing has shifted up. I really don't hate it. I'm kind of okay with it. So I'm going to do it that way because so the other alternative, one other idea I have is that the items part could go above. So this would stay stationary in its original position, and then the items list would be expanding right here. I'm going to try that. And the way that would be done is this becomes like this and shifts up to here. So it happens like character role. Yeah, here we go. Character status, game status, inventory. What went wrong there is that there's not necessarily a last child yet. Fight, leave, fight. Yeah, I'm 100% good with this setup. This seems good. What if I keep going until I've cleared out the dungeon? Oh, we just want to run away from that. All right, nothing left to find here. Stairs go down, descend. What I'm looking for here is to find another key. And I guess I did at some point without noticing. Find another key. Try to use a key on a chest. Very good. Okay, so I can get items. Let's take a moment to commit this, because I didn't commit earlier today and I didn't commit late last night. Inventory system. There we go. All right, I'm trying to think of what's going to be next. I had a full list earlier, so maybe what I need to do is go and just generate a to-do list. Again. Okay, so we show inventory stuff on the left. We have item slots. We can add and remove items generically. So what we need to do is is we need to add in a couple more item types. We have keys, and keys can be used in a special space. Like there's a special place in time where keys are available to be used. And I think what would be good is if an item can be used, that we have some kind of plan for what scenarios where items like that can be used, and detecting those options and making them available more automatically. Let me show you what I mean. So inventory system features. 1, we need allow item use in context. 2, in relevant contexts. Automate. Make sure item use is possible in relevant contexts. And then design or build in a few more item types, right? So that's what I think it's going to take to. Those are the 2 big things we have to do. I think we can do it, the first part, with just keys. I think it can apply even to keys. So right now, when you find a locked box, we have this spot called verbs, locked box, which give you ways of dealing with a locked box. And it directly manually checks if the player has a key and then generates a use key option. So the question is, if we automate this, how much of it do we automate? Do we automate it to the point that we lose flavor text, like the ability to say to unlock the chest? If all I knew was that if this was completely generic, right, then it would go, oh, I see that we have a key, and that a key applies in a situation. So it could say something like, you can use a key, but it couldn't say to unlock the chest, because since it's completely generic, the same template has to be applicable in all scenarios for all items. So the key part comes in from the fact that we know the label, so we can get the label and stick it in there. That works. But we don't know this flavor text at the end without knowing both the item and the context, right? So the other way we can automate it is not to say that it's 100% automatic, because even if it was pretty automatic, I still think we would be wanting to put it here. I don't think we would want to do something like QU automatic verbs or something like that. Because if I do QU automatic verb or automatic inventory verbs, this could work, right? You could imagine it looks and sees, oh, we're interacting with a locked box, and we have a table somewhere of all the items that apply when a locked box is the item that is the entity we're interacting with. So we're interacting with the locked box entity, and we have a list of inventory items, and somewhere we have a table that tells us which inventory items can be relevant in any given scenario. And so it could populate this completely automatically. We would just say in every verb situation, drop this guy in there, and it will make sure you get all your automatic inventory verbs. But since we need to manually build that association matrix, right, the set of items that relate to each entity, since we need to build that anyways, it's not that big of an ask to say we put it right here in the verbs function. And if we're putting it here in the verbs function, then I think we have a way to add the flavor text back in. And the way I could imagine that working is something like QU fancy item verb, something like that. And I would say, here's how you build the thing. Also, you're going to need the alive system for this. So here's how you do that part. And here's the type of item I want you to supply a verb for. And here is the template that I want you to use for the line, for the verb line, right? So then it would know, okay, this gets used to generate the use a label. Like we grab the label of this and we say, you can use a blank. We could also say like you can use a, or we could say that you can use a as automatic, and that all we supply is the to unlock the chest, right? So you can use a blank would all be built into this. The problem I have with that, the reason I don't like you can use a blank being the whole template, is if I have a potion, I might want to say you can quaff a potion, right? I might want to change the text that happens here. So a key is an item you use. And I could also make a matrix that's like, hey, what's the name, like what's the item usage verb for each, what's the usage verb for each inventory item key? I could do that. I could even say the use a key could be just the whole thing. So like we go over here to key properties, right? I've already got a spot here where I'd say what the inventory item key, what its label is. So I could have one that's like usage verb is like use a key, and then the template is you can blank to unlock the chest, and the blank comes from this key on its usage verb. And so if you have a potion, it can say you can quaff a potion. Only problem with that is I might want to have two different verbs for the same item. So for example, I might want to say you can quaff a potion or you can throw a potion, right? I might want to include the concept of potion throwing. But you know what I think? Having gone through all those options, it feels like all of the fancy stuff I can do is stuff that is out of scope for the 7-day challenge. And since I'm short on time already, I think the right thing to do is to go with it always fills in you can use a blank automatically, and then you get to set the to blank if you want. You can also leave this empty and get the effect of you can use a key, and it won't say any more than that. So if I was like, hey, look, I'm just filling stuff in, I don't want to flavor text, I could do this, and it would just say you can use a key. So that gets us pretty close. The only thing that's missing now is that I have a special action for using a key. And I probably want to generalize that. Right, I probably want using an item to be a generic action that I can make work. So before we go and do this, let's do that, because I don't think that's the other thing that will get in the way here. Oh, that gets tough though. Interacting with a lock. Can be associated with using a key. It can't so easily be associated with using an item in general. Now, if the item I'm using was a key, I could get there, but then I can't just switch on the game action, right? If this was use item is not enough information to know for sure that I'm using a key. So this code path wouldn't work. Okay. I still think it's the right thing to do to not make a separate game action for every single item usage. And the reason I say that is mostly because I want to get to a point where when I use an item, it's got a chance to just work without having to go and define yet another action for it, right? If I can get to a point where saying use an item has any chance at all of just working, it would be something like when you are here and defining this part, right? This is what I'm thinking about. When I'm filling in the definition of all the options you can have for dealing with a locked box, and I write something like this, like, hey, let them use a key to unlock the chest, I don't want to have to go like, okay, and now that we have a key item, here's the special action for using that particular type of item that gets picked up for this particular set of verbs. Or maybe I do. I mean, it is useful to be able to say whenever you use an item, or whenever you would do a verb, it goes to the right place based on what verb you plugged in here. Okay. I'm going to settle. I don't think this is 100% obviously the right thing, but I think that this is what I'm going to do for now so that I can minimize the amount of rewrites that are necessary to keep making progress. So for now, when you make an item, if that item doesn't have a corresponding way to use it in the game actions, you have to make a new action for it. So using an item is not a generic action. Each item has its own verb for using it. So using a key is a verb, and we don't have to change any of that system. All we have to do is build QU fancy item verb. I'm going to put this in the item system rather than in the... Well, how do I do this? Let me organize this well. Let's see. Fancy alives, fancy helpers, fancy draw, fancy layout, alive, copy stale, new, alive, din string, alive, fancy content. Yeah, I think this can't be like that, so it's going to have to be... Yeah, it's going to make most sense to organize it this way. And we put that onto an arena. We use the fancy alive system. We use the fancy string. We use the game key. We use the game action that item triggers. You know, another idea is we could return the alive and attach a payload manually. And I like that because that way, if I ever have a situation where I have like 3 different potions and you hit the drink potion action, I don't get stuck where I'm like, all right, we need a different drink potion verb for every single potion type so you can figure out which one you drank. I'd like to be able to attach more information in some cases, but the use a key case is one where it is a little easier to have a separate action. So yeah, the fact that we can attach payloads to any alive handle means that we can just return a fancy alive and leave it not automatic, the part where you attach the payloads. That part will be manual to the verb, to the fancy string story fragment thing. And finally, we put in a string for the flavor string. Okay? So the idea is that this replaces this. That's the idea. All right, so if this kind of item is in the inventory, just need a quick fix here. If we go to push a payload onto a null pointer, let's just make that safe to do. So we can go like, okay, if the alive does not equal 0, you do this. But we can't return a null payload because then you'll just end up dereferencing the payload instead of dereferencing on a live pointer. So what we'll do is we'll have a local writable payload dummy, and we return a pointer to that. And so then when they go and when they do all these state changes, they're changing state on a useless slot of memory that just is there so that it doesn't crash. And we then ignore the results of those writes. We don't prevent the writes or anything because that's a lot more code writing. It's just, it always works this way. You always return a non-null payload the way we used to always. But now all of the functions that generate payloads can take a null pointer and ultimately they just do nothing. In effect. So to item verb okay, if the item is in the inventory, then we write you can use we need to get the name of the thing. Mark that as no wrap because it's got an alive attached to it. And then we drop the flavor string. That goes away, that goes there. These can go away. Now we just need to get that item label. That comes from the content system by grabbing the label property off of the item key. That needs to be an expand. And now we need to implement the item in inventory helper. Which is going to look a lot like the first two item inventory helpers we wrote. Because it's going to do this. And then it's going to go result equals match does not equal 0. Return result. I feel like the white text here can be smaller. Like this is maybe, like I could bump this up 2 points and drop this down 4 points. And it would still be good looking, or it'd look better even. It's kind of what I want to do. Explore quickly. Fight the snake. Fight the snake. There we go. Fight the rat. Leave quickly. Run from the dark ooze quickly. Leave the chest quickly. Thoroughly. Run from the dark ooze. Thoroughly. Run from the dark ooze. Thoroughly. Okay, no keys on this level. Quickly fight the rat. Quickly fight the rat. Quickly fight the rat. Quickly leave the chest. Quickly fight the rat. Quickly fight the rat. Quickly fight the rat. Quickly found a key and put it in your pack. Okay. So now if I go back to the stairs and I ascend, and I go to the locked chest, and I use a key, the chest opens, so everything is still working. That is amazing. So I can get rid of player has a key if I want to. The equivalent now is to just ask if it's just to ask the item system if there's an item in the inventory using the keyword. So that is great. And we're 1 hour in. Like I said, I'm going for 3 to 4 hours. So we've spent something like 30% of the time that we're going to have today. So if we spent a little less than a third of our time, then what we can do is spend about as much time 2 more times and then do a little bit of a final wrap up, something smaller, polish or planning or something like that. So next big chunk, what is it going to be? What did I write down as the stuff I want to do? Make sure item use is possible in relevant context. So we've done about half of that task now, which was setting up the thing where the locked box now gets its key verb this way. So what have I really done here is I've made it much easier to plug in key verbs or item verbs like this. Now, one thing I want to think about is if I have the option to use an item, yeah, I still have to, in each verb context, I have to think of all the items that could possibly be used. And that makes me a little nervous that I could easily forget one. But I'm just going to have to be careful. So let's do potions. I feel like potions are the most obvious other thing. So the reason I said I did about half of this is because the other half is spread out. It's every time I have an item, I need to be able to use it. Right now, keys are my only item. So in order to make any more progress now, because of the way I've decided to do this, I need to build items and start plugging them into the context where they're relevant. So build in a few more item types. Let's start with potions. Like I said, I think it's the most clearly fun and relevant. It's an expendable. I can plug them in. You can use them and spend them. That reminds me, there are some other things I want to do. Support items with charges. So items with charges would be ones that when they reach 0, they don't die, and then there's some method of recharging them that is potentially available. Or maybe when they reach 0, they do die. So you could imagine, like, you know, get a magic wand. If it goes to 0, then it's just a useless stick. Oh yeah, that's actually a cool idea. Items that transform after use. So you have a wand. If you use it enough times, it runs out of charges. It becomes a stick, and maybe a stick is not much better than punching, but a little better, or it has a fun use somewhere in the game. It can be used in some way. But potions are fun because they're just straightforward. You have a potion, you can quaff it, and it affects you, makes you tough, or heals you, or something. And so it fits into what we already have. It doesn't have to be a charge-based item. It doesn't have to be like equipped or anything more difficult like that. And not only does it fit into what we've already got, it just feels super classic. Like, if you could only pick one consumable item, I think you pick potions, right? So let's come in here and say we've got locked boxes, we have keys. Another great reason to make potions is because if you force a locked box open, it's going to break the potions that are in there, right? That's if you force the key, or if you force the box open, then we can do the NetHack thing. You find shattered glass instead of potions, which you would have found if you used a key. So I'm just going to make a potion item type. And so you might be thinking, like, well, what about different types of potion? There are two different ways I could approach this. I could have healing potion and strength potion and a speed potion and whatever. I could have a holy water potion, right? I could have these things, but if I did this way, then whenever I am making the verb to be able to use potions, I kind of have to do this way because they need to stack separately. I can't have two items in the inventory can only be distinguished by their key right now. I can't attach other properties to any item. Right, so I don't have a system right now where I can have blessed and cursed items. Why is that? Because my inventory system just uses the key on the keyword, which is these things, so the kind of entity, and a stack count. Those are the only two things that exist in the slot. And it would be a bigger change to say things like, hey, we have a potion of healing and a potion of strength. Both have the potion kind, but then different sub-kinds, because the way my inventory system works is going to think that they're the same and stack them. And worse, it's not even going to carry the subtype over unless I start also telling it to do that with each item. So I could do it this way: healing potion, strength potion, speed potion, holy water potion. I could also go for like the item identification minigame thing, right? But I don't want to do that, and I'll tell you why I don't want to do that. Is even if I want item identification, I don't want to build it in at this layer. Rather, I would build that in as an obfuscation when I go to render out the text, because I might have something like a regular water potion and a holy water potion, which are both always guaranteed to be clear. And then I run into the problem again where I need to be able to, at the bottom level, distinguish between water and holy water. But I can't have them both be called water potion or clear potion in the game key, right? They have to have separate game keys. So the game key will contain the actual potion type of item we're making. I think that's the only way I can do it. And we're already kind of running into the thing I was worried about, which is now if I go to the combat section and the explore section, all right, so if I'm in combat and I have to decide combat, then I'm going to have to do like here's the list of all quick consumable items, keys, and they have to be quick consumables because we're in combat. There might be some consumables that I don't allow you to use in combat because they're not quick. Potions won't be among them. And then I have to copy all of the quick consumables into that list. And then I have to, I might even want to do something like this. Potion keys. And the reason I might want to do it this way is because the flavor text for potions might differ from the flavor text for wands, say, if I have them both. So then I'm going to grab this. For each of these, potion keys see, this doesn't even work because I want to include like flavor text on each of those. I could skip flavor text for consumable items. So we could do it like this. You can use a healing potion, you can use a strength potion, you can use a speed potion, you can use a holy water potion. This could work. Let's run with this. Build things out this way for a minute and see how it feels. I suspect I might start wanting to tweak this because the other piece that I was going to get to while I was explaining this, the other thing I'm worried about is running out of space. Like, I'm going to start generating a verb for every single item that you can use. What if that's 15 items? I mean, that's how many you get in some roguelikes. The layout might start to become restricted, and if I had more time, the way I might deal with that is to say something like, when you get an item, you can activate it by clicking it over here. You'll get this alive feature, right? And so all the items that fit on screen can be used because I don't have any extra flavor text. They just become highlighted when they're usable. I think I might try to do that, even though it's going to be harder. Because it feels like everything would work easier once it was done by a lot. If that was how it worked, I would actually just need to say, I'm going to make the matrix of which keys are available in which scenarios. So it's like combat scenario, here's all the things you can use. Here's a list of all the game item keys that are possible to use. If you're in an exploration scenario, here's all the ones that are available. If you're in a specific scenario where you're targeting specific entity for interaction, like a locked box or a door, then here are the things that are used in each of those special contexts, like a key, right? Um, building that matrix that way. So the thing is, building that matrix that way kind of would work, and I would have to sacrifice, and it would make sense to sacrifice the flavor text in that situation too, because if it's going to just be highlighted in the inventory, there's no flavor text, right? And it's starting to feel like I don't have enough room for flavor text on the screen without having separate screens that you can switch between while making a decision. And that's something I don't have time to build out right now. So at least I have two different panels that are both available for making a decision, which is a step in that direction. That feels better than where this is headed in this setup. But it's a lot of work to change directions. I have to make a decision quickly, because wasting time thinking would make it that much worse. Okay, I'm gonna do it. That's out. That's out. That's out. That's out. And I'm saving them in an if0 block because I'm a little nervous that this is going to be hard, as in like really push, might be really pushing it. It might also be trivial. I don't quite have a strong sense of it. So I might want to back up and go that other route still. But if it's not too hard to actually build it to work this way, I think I'll just be happier. So the first thing I need to be able to do is if I'm in here, when I build that side string, I said earlier that if I build the side string, I don't need to pass the alive system to it, but I'm just going to change my mind and say I do. I do pass the alive system to it. It does, in fact, attach alive status to some of its strings. And that's how it's going to be. And so we'll see if it just works, which I think it might, or if it's a disaster in a minute. Or if it's close to working. What we're going to do is when we generate these, I'm for now going to go full on bananas and say you always attach an alive. Now this is wrong. This will change later if this plan works, but right now what I'm mostly doing is testing if the plan works. So we always attach an alive, and we give it no payload. So we'll just be able to see it being alive for starters. Go into the dungeon. I'm going to disable encounters, and I'm going to enable lots of keys so that I can see these things faster. When we go into the generator, no, not that generator, not audio generator. Did I accidentally close the world generator? No. So why were you not pulling it up? Maybe I was just not seeing it. Let's see. So if we have enabled lots of keys, then the initial key potential is going to be 100, and we'll put a key cap here, which is usually 3. We'll set the key cap to 5. Spotify needed a quick refresh. Some things remain constant. Okay. Go to the dungeon. Enter the dungeon quickly. And we found a key. But I don't see it highlighting and bobbing when I mouse over it. How can I understand that? Current fragment side string. The alive system goes in there. Side layout, turn the frames. Side layout goes there. Oh, here's why. So when I apply logic to the alive system, I only scan the main layout. So what I'm going to do is create something called a total layout. And check this out. A total layout is going to be an array called layouts that points to the main layout and the side layout, like that. And then when you go to do anything involving iterating main layout, you'll actually iterate both layouts. And what we'll do is we'll say layout count is going to be up here. If side layout is 0, then the layout count can be a 1. Very very not robust, very hacked. But I don't want to get bogged down here in the last half day of my jam. Last 24 hours of my jam. Layout. There we go. Main layout. Main layout gets replaced with layout like that. Now, yeah, that's fine. That doesn't change the text color. That's the background color. I'll leave that as it is. And let's see if that was enough to make it happen. So I explore, I find a key, and look at that. My key is now highlighted, but it's not interactive with my mouse. And I'm gonna guess that, yeah, there. Do you see that? Now it's interacting with my mouse. It's because it doesn't know about the fact that each layout is in a different position. We can fix that too. So basically this logic here is what we really need. The total layout lives right here. and with it comes a pair of layouts and a pair of layout Ps. And so we just go like this. Layouts, layout Ps, I plus equals 1. Layouts, layout Ps, I plus equals 1. Layout count equals I. And then at the end, we have an easier job, because now we can just copy the information we already calculated earlier. Layout, layouts, copy, that's an array, so copy an array. Do that again on layout P and layout Ps, and then layout count is just a count that we move over like that. And what else have we got going on? Right, so here when I'm doing these interactions, when I'm doing these loops over, over the J variable, which gives me, or the J iterator, which gives me these layout variables, I need also to figure out the correct layout P by pulling it from the layout Ps. And so the main can come off of all of these references to layout P. And we're looking at something like this. Right, so now mouse interaction is based on the correct layout position. Let's keep seeing if there are direct, okay, so that looks like that was everything. This is garbage. Explore quickly, we find a key, and it's interactive. Okay, that's pretty close. So a couple of things I do think are wrong still. I want to split this up into the count, which can go right here as one node, and the label, which can go right here as another node. And actually now we don't need to manually grab the string. We can just do fancy, what's it called? Dinster, I think it's fancy content. Yeah, fancy content, which means we can go frame arena, alive sys, stir, item key, inventory label, and that's going to do the same thing. Yeah, that's going to do the same thing it was doing before, except now, now if this happens to want to use a story fragment instead of a hard-coded string, it can do that. And we can still attach an alive to it after the fact. If this chooses to spit out multiple nodes, it will make a mess. But it can be a story fragment now, which means it can at least be a single node. It could still be a single node and procedural in some way. Like it can be based on more. For instance, if we have an identification system, right? If we don't know that blue potions are strength potions yet, then this can decide whether to write blue potion or strength potion by looking up into the player knowledge array or something. I'm actually pretty excited about that. That looks like a pretty easy thing to get in there. If you're hanging out, I appreciate it. I am going to take a quick break to walk and stretch my legs and use the bathroom. I will be back shortly to keep going with this. What I'm going to do is, for all those people who aren't listening, I'm going to do you a quick favor, which is if you discover this stream while I am taking my quick break, I want you to know that I thought of you. All right, I'm back. Let's begin. Nick Deli, welcome. Oh, thank you. I'm glad that it's interesting. If you have questions about things you don't understand, I hope you feel free to chat about it. But I also get it if you're just kind of hanging out. I often like to put things on and just listen, to have something in the background and only half follow. So that's cool too. Okay, I need to get to my code. So we got to the point where the label was separated, and if I went and explored, got a key there. That's how I want it to look. Now, let's think about what's next. I think before I go any farther, I'm going to do the tweaks on the appearance that I want, because I want to see if the item highlights, when they are activatable, still look good. Right, I want to see if this still is it holds up as I shrink and modify the size of the text here a little bit. So I was thinking maybe bump the size of all the text up by 2, but then drop these, or let's say we drop it, so I had it there, right? Let's drop it by 4, and then on the special label parts, I will bump it up instead of down by a little bit. Like that. How does that make it feel? Explore. Okay. Yeah, so that might be a little easy to miss. Like, it's possible if you were exploring and you found a locked chest. How did I get 3 keys? Wait a minute, that might be a bug. Explore, leave the chest. Explore, there's a key. Explore, there's a key and I put it in my bag, okay. There's a key and I put it in my bag. Leave, explore. There's a key. Okay, maybe it's not a bug. Maybe it's one of those things where the screen doesn't appear to be changing every time I click, but I am in fact doing something new. Okay, no secret. So now I've got 5 keys because I've got lots of keys. If I come over here and I click this, now it doesn't do anything and there's no option to use the key. But I am thinking it might be possible that I'll miss it here. So there's one easy way I can fix that. I could put a little thing here that's like, or you could use an item and let them figure out that there's the item list over here. I think that would be fine. Gonna tweak the layout again, just because it's fun. I like that better. So yeah, let's go with that plan. So let's start by, before we make the items more noticeable, let's work on, right now it highlights all of the items and I only have keys. I still, after all this work on the inventory system, all I have are keys. I swear I'm going to plug in items soon, but I want the system in place to make it like, so that I start plugging them in and I don't want to spend 30 minutes of my time plugging in 2 new test items just because the item system is still so heavyweight to plug stuff into. I'm trying to get to the point where adding new items is going to be very easy so that I can add lots of items rather than a couple, right? And have it be high enough quality to like and be enjoyable to work with at the same time, because if I plugged in a few, it would still be okay to work with, but if I plugged in like 6 and it took all the time to do it, I think it would start running into problems without these changes. Now, I don't want it to always be alive, so this is where we're going to have to set up a new sort of lookup matrix to figure out when an item is actually usable. So the question is like QU item is usable, and there's the item key. Now, how will we figure out if it's usable? It's going to be in reference to other aspects of the system. So like, are we in active combat? Are we in exploration mode? Are we looking at a particular type of item? None of that is context that is specially known here, right? Here where we're building the side string, we don't specially know something that we don't know globally. So I don't need to pass anything else in from here to make it work. What I need to do is think of it as a helper that is going to reach into the whole game state and figure out what state we're in for me. And let's figure out how it can do that. How can we figure out if we're in combat state or exploration state? Well, I think what I'm going to end up having to do here is add keywords for those particular modes. So maybe those states, although this I can just say when I go to figure out the state. Okay, what I'll do is I'll say when I go to figure out the state, either I'm in the explorer state or the combat state, or one of the other keys can show up. The null key will show up if there's no relevant key, in which case no items will be usable. But if I'm, for instance, interacting with a locked box, then that will be the state that shows up, right? So the keywords, the reason I'm putting this in the set of keywords is because some of the keywords already are being used to represent some of the special things that I might want to interact with, like the door to the Hall of Madness, or to the Halls of Madness, and the locked box, and other things might appear. Now, if I'm in combat, I will always want to know that I'm in combat, and I won't need to look at this, right? The hardest part is going to be if I figure out if I'm in explore state. Because there are some true deficiencies in the structure here. Basically, explore state is not denoted. Explore state is entirely implicit in the story fragments. And that is a mistake of just an accident of how things first came together in the system. I didn't have a systematic structure for things when I was first building the Explorer system, so it's a bit of a hack that I would do differently if I had time on my hands. So what I could do, let's take a look. When do I decide exploration? begin region, decision options. I decide exploration if I'm in the combat state fragment, but active combat is done. Then you go to exploration decision. There's a continue exploration state, a story fragment that I can be in. Wow, there's so many of these. So this is less than ideal. Okay, so I think I'm gonna have to structure this to match the wicked structure of the rest of the system. By default, our state key is gonna have to say, it's gonna have to assume we're in the exploration mode. And then we're gonna take a look at a few things. Are we in active combat is one big one. We figure that out with check active combat. So if that is true, that overrides everything else, and we find ourselves in state combat. Otherwise, we have this like interaction entity. So let's grab that. And if the interaction entity is not 0, we'll say that that gives us our state key. And then if there are any times where the system allows me to use items because it thinks I'm in the explore state when I shouldn't be, we will have to fix that by just specifically overriding it with null in those cases. I'm not in love with that fact, but that's sort of the structure of the game's logic right now, because like I said, the accidents of how it came together at first when I didn't fully understand what I might want this system to be like. And so we're going to live with it because we're only building content for the next day. So if it's a little bit wonky and we end up with a list of special exceptions, we can probably pull it off for a day before the jam is done. And then the second piece of this, so here's where we're figuring out this to determine the state key. The second thing we have to do is we need to have a new one of these things, something kind of like the key properties. I'm going to call this the quest item use matrix. And the item use matrix is going to go like this. You can use a key in the locked box state. You can use a healing potion. Do I have healing potions in the list yet? Key. Yeah, you can use a healing potion in the combat state. And the state combat and state exploration. State explore. Healing potions work that way. Strength potions work that way. Speed potions work that way. Holy water potions work that way. Okay, so how do we use that? Go like this. Determine if usable. What we do is we go define the X item as having an item key and a state key. We'll ask we'll define the state like this: QU game key count. Result equals 1, break. Okay. So what this is saying is for each X item in the list, which is these things, if we will match against the integer, which is equal to the sum of the item key, which will be this guy, and the state key, which will be this guy, times the game key count, which gives us a unique integer for each pair. And if we do match, then whichever one we match doesn't matter. All that matters is that we now know this is a usable item. So now we switch on key plus state key times game key count. And finally, we include the quest item use matrix.h. So that right there drops this list here, and the X items get turned into cases of this switch. Right, except I have to remember that I use the abbreviated versions instead of the full versions of the names, so it will require me to make the extra effort to convert those into actual enum values like that. Okay. So if I go and pick up a key, it doesn't think it's usable. If I keep exploring, finding all the keys I can, and then I find a locked chest, now it's going to let me use the key. Only problem is, it doesn't know what to do when I use the key. Because remember, we marked it as alive, but when we make it alive, we have to attach payloads that describe the behavior of that alive piece of text when you click on it. And I haven't actually done that yet. All I've done is marked the items that are usable. I haven't attached any payloads. Now, this is the one piece. So all of this has been easier than I thought it might be, which is great. I especially thought getting the layout, getting to the point where I had two layouts working side by side was going to be harder than it was. I think I overcomplicated it in my head on day one when I built the whole layout and a live engine. I think I thought that it was more restricted than it actually is. So that's great, but I was originally planning that whenever you use an item, that you would get a chance to specify for each item verb you provide what the payloads would be in line, right? Now I need a generic way. And it won't work to just attach them here. Like I could say game action, use key, and then like drink potion, right? I could do this, but sooner or later you're gonna notice that a drink potion action by itself isn't good enough. I still need to know which item I used. And these might actually want to be throw potion, and maybe you can only use them during the combat state. So I could do that, but that doesn't solve the whole problem because I'm still going to be in the situation where if I have a healing potion and a strength potion in my inventory, and I do the game action drink potion, if the system that handles that doesn't know which potion I clicked on, it's not going to be able to do the right thing every time. So the new way this works has to be that whenever you activate something, yes, maybe we can attach an action key, like a game action piece of information to it, which would let us it would let us okay, this is coming together nicely. Game action. So we can do this much if we want to, but that's not going to be the whole story. And I'll show you where the other piece of the story has to happen next. Right, so QU game action null. So we can use this to figure out a game action, but the more important thing now is going to be when we go and check if an item is usable. Let's actually rename that, since it's no longer asking a question, is this usable? It's asking, in this context, what action does the item do? So it's a little bit harder to name when you're rushing, which is what we're doing. Like that. So we've got the game action. What are we doing here? So if the action is not null, then we attach the alive, and we want to attach a payload onto that alive, which tells it to use that game action. So that's a part of the story. But like I said, if all I ever did was tell it which game action to do, the thing which eventually consumes that payload does not know which potion to drink. And I don't want to have a separate action for each type of item in the game, just because now then I would have to go through and be like, okay, here's how you map this action to an item, and this item to an action, and blah, 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 blah. It doesn't fit in with how the game action stuff is organized. It's a lot of work. So it's easier to say we're going to need a new trick here, which is to select an item as a part of the payload. So then I can just take the item pointer from my inventory and select it as a payload. That's the idea. So the payload system oh, I have a better idea than this. Oh, I have a better idea than this. Nah, that's not a better idea. Never mind. Let's just forget I said that. So we'll do something like this. Set active item. Takes in an entity like that. Set interaction. Set active item. Just plug that in. Active item. Entity. Payload kind. Set interaction. Set active item. Set interaction gets processed right there. Set active item is gonna go active item entity equals payload entity, and that's pretty good. Then when you do a game action, yeah, so if I have a game action, this is how this will work. So if I have a game action like drink potion, live up here. And I'm trying to figure out how to process that, right? So that's what's going on in my head. How do you do the drink potion? Oops, we don't need one password. We also have a throw potion case, which I'll just define so that everything builds. But if we're in this case, then the next thing is like, well, what happens here? Well, first we'll do the handle drink potion, which we're not going to write yet, but we could. And then we're going to do if check active combat. So if you drink a potion during combat, then it will be equivalent to if you had used the wait action, right? We might need to tweak that there, but like in terms of the game mechanics, you took a turn drinking a potion, and maybe that is the right thing to do, but it's like you didn't run, you didn't guard, you didn't fight. Now, if you were in explore mode, then I think nothing happens. Like you had the chance to explore. Say you're playing a regular roguelike. What happens if you aren't threatened by combat? There's nobody around you who's putting you in danger. You have the choice to go wherever you want or do whatever you want, and so you drink a potion. Well, then the next state you're in is the effect of the potion is applied, and you have all the other options available to you again. You once again get to decide. It's not like you passed on taking any of your combat actions. So drinking a potion ticks forward the combat simulation as if you waited. And the only problem with that is going to be it's going to say that you waited when actually what you did was drink a potion. And so we're going to have to tweak the way it prints a description of your behavior, because it shouldn't actually think of you as having done a wait action in terms of what it prints to you. So that's going to make it more complicated again. But besides that, I think that's the right basic idea. So just checking in here. We're 2 hours into the stream now. I originally said that I was going to go for somewhere between 3 and 4 hours. And I definitely think I can still get to 3. I might fade at that point, and it might be that we only end up with 3 hours. We might be at about 66% of our time already. What we've achieved so far in that 66% of our time is we've plugged in the ability for the items to show up in a list. We've decided how to interact with the items in contexts where they are valid on the interface side. And we're now beginning to talk about how we would implement a drink potion handler, which is cool. That means that's like real progress, right? I've gotten to the point where I'm actually starting to implement a new item type because the keys should just work. But what I haven't actually done is I haven't actually tested that the keys work. So let's go back a step and right. This also is the wrong name because I'm using abbreviations in the X list. There we go. So let's test that my keys work. Explore quickly, got a key. Explore quickly, found a chest. Use the key and the chest opens. Okay, cool. So there we go. Now item usage can be driven from there. And now you can see the key is not usable in any context where I'm not looking at a locked box, right? So that's cool. We've made it to the 5th level of the dungeon by clicking through because we've disabled enemies. Try to force the box. Use a key. And dig good decrements. Okay, that is pretty cool. happy with all that. So now the big question is, can I start adding in new items? Does it work? And I think in order to make more progress, I could go talk about how to implement the drink potion handler. And maybe that's what I should do. So, in order to handle drinking a potion, we're going to need to look at the potion item. And we can do that in the following way. Okay, I need that. So the active item entity is used to select an item whenever we use it from the inventory screen. That way, we know which one got used in the handler paths. So that lets us grab our active item. If our item does not equal 0, which it shouldn't, that should never happen, but we're just being defensive here because we're rushing through things. I'd rather the game not crash. If there's any easy, likely way to catch it, key healing potion strength potion speed potion Okay, how will this work? Well, healing potion's easy enough. We can just grab the player entity and set the injury count to 0. That's what the healing that's what the healing potion will do, is it'll clear out all your injuries. The player can only survive up to 2 injuries. Their third injury kills them. So a healing potion zeroing out your injuries is like, I mean, it's powerful, but you're so squishy through this game anyways that it's not like it's overpowered. It's not, a full health potion isn't that powerful in a game where you can only take 3 hits, you know? It's a pretty fair healing potion. Strength potion and speed potion are more interesting because they imply like a temporary status effect. So now we got to talk about how that would be possible. That's not a thing that's in the game yet. There's no status effects, right? It's fun building this, but each system that I begin to build immediately begins to sort of induce more systems. They're all very connected, and so anything that's missing makes building the other systems a little bit tricky too. I could say, screw it, there are no potions that create status effects. Strength and speed were just ideas I threw out. I could ditch those ideas and stick to things that I can implement in the next hour, since I'm gonna possibly be done by then, right? And then I've got tomorrow, and so the question is, if I do status effects now, can I make use of it? And I don't feel like I totally can, is the thing. Like I have a lot of content to plug in to kind of make this feel more built out, and none of them are status effects directly. On the other hand, like, there are things that will feel better, like snakes that want to poison you, that are also not built in. So So going in that direction might help, but each status effect might require unique programming. Like just because I can give you a timer for how long you have strength, poison probably works totally differently. I kind of want a system where you attach. They have similarities. I could attach status effects to you for both and just give some status effects time limits and make some of them last until they are healed or otherwise dealt with or otherwise eliminated, right? So strength potion, speed potion might give you temporary buffs through a status, while poison would give you a temporary debuff through a status or a permanent injury that can't be rested away. There's another. I don't have a resting system yet either, which I would love to have time to build. I could have it last, even if it lasts to something simpler like the end of combat. Yeah, I think I'm gonna just say no. You don't. We don't have these. So drink potion. If I come up with other potions that have immediate effects, I could add them to this list. But this is what drinking a potion looks like for now. Let's at least build the thing where if I do this during combat, the messages can be tweaked. And if I do this during exploration, the messages can be tweaked. Because right now, there would be no message confirming I drunk a potion. And so I got to think about how I would like to fix that. You're out, you're out. You're not out, but you need to be adjusted to that. And while we're at it, the key properties for these need to get written. So we have key items. Let's do why is discover a key a thing? I'm gonna generalize that so that all of my items can go through it for now. You find a blank and put it in your pack. And this part becomes fancy content, which we fill out like this. Rename file query qs discover item.c. Game entity item equals q game get interaction entity. So this is currently the interaction entity, not the active item entity. And it's the interaction entity because we're discovering it. Whenever we are exploring, we discover entities, they go into the interaction entity slot. So game property label, there we go. And there we go. Spotify needs a quick refresh. Okay. And just to give myself a little bit of fun, I'm going to set the color of that label to the item color. Now this should be a healing potion for now. Discover item. Potion. Potions. side exploration. Okay. Let's go back into this. Disable the lots of keys trick. And then let's generate healing potions. Not that generator. This one. Let's generate some potions. So how many potions do I want there to be around? I think that you shouldn't find one on the first level of the dungeon. And you should find one about every other level. Healing potions are I don't want to say that they should be unnecessary and just helpful. It might be, it's more, they're there to smooth over a certain amount of risk. So the amount of them that I hand out determines how risky you can be. And right now there's just not that much danger built into the game, so it feels like the right balance is to put in a few and not too many. So up to 1 potion entity. Key. Replace that with potion. If potion potential is greater than 0, roll. And then if we are on and then we increment by 1 every other dungeon level. So you get about 1 every other dungeon, although you can find them sort of like, the first one could be on dungeon level 2, but it could be on dungeon level 3 or 4 even, and you might find a few back to back, but sort of the pace of them coming out will be about 50% if there were an infinite number of dungeons. That's where it would equilibrium out to, but it might be less than that at the top of the dungeon. Okay, so that should dole out some potions. So we should be able to go in and find one. We won't find any on this level of the dungeon. So let's just go until we find a set of stairs and go down. And let's go down again. More stairs, but let's stay here. No, nothing here. Descend. This is fun. Aha. So yeah, there are parts of the game that exist that I'm gonna just take a break from the thing we were doing to fix a little content issue I just spotted. So we just went into the Halls of Madness and found out that I totally don't have region labels because this was all written before I really understood the region system. But Wait a minute. Why? Let's see here. Region title. Yeah, okay. Oh, there it is. There's the size I was looking for. Okay, so this would be, it would just need a label. Whoops. This would just need a label like, discover the Halls of Madness door. Right, if you failed the language check, that's how we will continue to know this, because we don't have a generic knowledge system yet. So if you fail the language check, we'll just give you this as your title. Otherwise, we'll give you this, which you'll never see this in the 7-day jam version, because the paths to actually knowing the language aren't in this. They're not in this version. Okay. But that should give it a label, and we can actually repeat that pretty easily. We go into the dungeon, we explore until we find downstairs, and we descend as quick as we can. Ooh, you find a key and put it in your pack. That's the other thing we were trying to test. So this is working, which is cool. Whenever we find an item, it'll show up like this, and then the label of the item will show up here. Doesn't matter what item we find. So our items have to be things we would put in a pack, because we don't have, well, we could specialize this. We could say, like, finding an item, if you find a weapon or something you wouldn't put in your pack, like something you might wear, it could do something else. But again, the only kind of item we really support right now is stackable items, because we don't have the ability to say that something's non-stackable, non-equipable, because we don't have like equipment systems or anything. So regular items that go in your pack, kind of what we're dealing with here. We're looking for downstairs. There we go. Got 2 keys on that level. Crumbling stone, yes. Here's the door. If we go in, close, but no, not quite. We need an end paragraph and a no wrap, which I skipped for some reason. Okay, yeah, we need the whole deal. One more time. Explore quickly. Just descend. Explore quickly, leave. Explore quickly. No, I don't want to go down. Here it is. Here's the door. We can go in, and then it's like, we don't know where you are. Uh-oh. Return to the dungeon doesn't work. That is supposed to take us to... Yeah, that's just back from when I was directly linking fragments to each other rather than having a deeper state system and projecting the fragments from the state. It's all sort of meshed together here into one big insane blob of different systems that I've experimented with in the last week. But it's good. It is getting, it is, I've learned and I've gotten better at how this kind of system would work if I was to build a big one. So the fix here, I think now, is to go to a continue exploration kind of mode. That way it should allow me, we're going to take a look again. Descend. Explore quickly, descend. Okay, we're on the 4th level. Now we want to stay here until we've explored the whole thing or found the door. Okay, so this time I need to go down again. Might be on the 5th level. Here's the door. Okay. I enter the door, and then if I return to the dungeon, you see a stone doorway here. Yes, so I'm still in the dungeon again. The stone doorway chills, or the air chills my skin. I can go to the stone doorway, or I can keep exploring, and I can use my keys. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to do, the thing I wanted to remember to do is like when I have the verbs for the box, for instance, since I have usable items. I want, in that case, to do something like one of these. That just is like, why don't we actually do it this way? Go into story here. You can use an item.c, and that'll be just like this. And so if you can use an item, then we just add into the list of what we've printed out, you can use an item, just so if you don't notice, there's a reminder on the main text to check your inventory in those kinds of contexts. I am 100%, by the way, doing easier stuff. There's a main thing I should be doing, which is picking up a potion and seeing if it works, and I haven't even seen a potion yet. I made them incredibly rare. So maybe I need to add a lots of potions option so that I can get back to that and make it easier to run into that case. But in the meantime, we've made progress on polished stuff that I would have been happy, or that I'm happy to have caught. But real quick, let's implement this helper, and then we'll get back to that. Item context action. So related to the item context action is the query that we're trying to write here, can use an item. And that isn't asking if I can use a specific item, it's more like can use any item that you have, right? If you can use any item at all, then we want to just give you the pointer. The inventory lets you pick which one to use, so all that pointer is doing is reminding you to look. Can use any item. So what that's going to do is scan all of the items. We need the game state for this to be done. A copy of that line. Scan all of the items. So close, there we go. And for each item, ask the same question over and over again. Can this one be used by asking if it's game action, in the current context is non-null. If any of them can be used, we can say yes. At least one item in the inventory can be used. You can use an item. Okay, let's go test that out. Explore quickly, leave, explore quickly, leave, explore quickly. Okay, that's everything here. Descend, explore quickly, leave, explore quickly. Got a key, go back up. There's the box. What do you do, it says. It says, what do you do, where I thought it was going to say you can use an item. There we go. Okay, whatever that was not something I wanted to be listening to. It's just distracting and a little much. I might need to go switch to a playlist. It's kind of gotten into the deep, weird section of whatever I started on. Yeah, that'll do. Okay, so that's one of the cool, fun things we wanted. Let's get to the bigger thing that I was saying I was avoiding. Oh, at this point, I'm going to distract again. Let's clean up after ourselves and get rid of the other build, like way we were trying to build this earlier that we ended up taking out. There we go. Now, lots of potions. All right, lots of potions can be made if we do potion potential. Is yeah, potion potential, potion cap. Potion cap is usually 1. Potion cap. But if we have lots of potions, potion potential cap jumps up to 5. Potion potential starts at 100. And so now we can get ourselves a potion. Explore quickly. I found a potion and put it in my pack. Did I? Because I don't see it. Okay, what's different between the key and the healing potion that leads to... There's the difference. Right. So anything that we count as a pickupable item, we want to stick it. We want to stick it into this list here of things that go through item pickup. Okay. Still feeling pretty good. But my music's a bit loud. Okay. Test this again. Go into the dungeon. Explore. Found a potion. Still no pickup. Did I not build? This is your last chance, and then I have to switch to the debugger. There it is. Okay. Now, if I enable enemy spawns, then I expect... yeah, I might find some when I go in and explore. You fail to strike the snake. The snake dies. Explore quickly. Man, I encounter so many more enemies than items, even when I'm spamming in tons of items from my perspective. I might want to retune either the population level or the spawn rate. Maybe the spawn, maybe the way I chose to map population levels to spawn rates is too aggressive. It doesn't feel quite right. I mean, if I was getting 2 or even 3 fights at the beginning of a dungeon before I found something, that might be okay. But I feel like I just had like so many, like 5 before my first thing. That should be impossible. I should find one thing. Especially given how many things there are, I should not be able to go from very long without finding one. So one big part of it is that there's no reward for fighting and winning the thing except for decreasing the population level. And so you have to repeat the exploration. You didn't make it, the exploration that got interrupted doesn't even get completed. You have to redo the exploration. Like there's like these ticks that are happening, the counter saying like you've explored this much. And if you get interrupted by a combat encounter, then you don't tick off what you explored because I don't want you to miss out on the ability to get the item you would have gotten, right? And so if I'm going to say you get the exploration anyway, then I have to make sure you always get the reward after the combat somehow, which I haven't built a system for stuff like that. But now, okay, I found another potion, and another potion, and a locked chest. And I'm running into nothing. I'm running into no encounters. There we go. So then all of a sudden I got a bunch of pickups instead of fights. So maybe that's just how it goes. Maybe it's too random and I need to decrease the degree to which the random number generator controls encounter types and enforce that you get exploration progress if you complete a combat a little bit, right? Something like that. I don't know. With these, you want to guard a couple times until they start fighting you, and then you can fight. Because if you fight them first, they'll just run away. And then you don't make any progress on clearing the dungeon. Now, a question I've had before about this system that I don't know about now is, do I ever encounter an enemy when I am exploring back and forth, traveling back and forth between known locations? And so one way I could test that, because that's the way it's supposed to work. By the way, I noticed that I haven't actually done anything to test the potions except that I can find them and pick them up. But that is progress. We know we can do that much now. Pop level min. Yeah, so the pop level starts off at 5 and decreases to 1 after I've won 4 combats. And so it never goes to 0. But it's only at 5 at the beginning, and I'm still seeing tons of enemy encounters, so I feel like I don't like that. However, for the sake of testing, can I hit the 5? Thank you. For the sake of testing, I am going to make the problem worse by saying that the population min is also a 5. That way, if I can do this long enough to actually find the chest and the downstairs, which are guaranteed to spawn on the first level, then I can... I broke it. It's a little tedious. Leave. So we got the chest. That's good. Fight the bat. Fight the snake. Fight the snake. Fight the bat. Fight the bat. Fight the rat. Fight the bat. Fight the bat. Fight the rat. Found a potion. Fight the cats. Run from the ooze. Run from the cat. Run from the cat. Explore. Find more potions. And a key. Oh, look at this. I can't actually confirm. If I just wait, can the cat hurt me? I don't think the cat can even hurt me, so I can't actually gain an injury, but I can... Okay, so when I do that, it doesn't use a potion. So I need to figure that out, but let's keep on the other thing I was testing. Counter a cat. Cat runs away. Come on. Let me find the stairs. There they are. Okay, so now I go to the locked chest. I leave stairs down. I leave locked chest. I leave. Okay. I didn't run this in the debugger, but that 100% confirms that I stopped getting encounters if I start using the return to entity thing. So let's investigate that a little further. That's not supposed to be that way. Oh, one other thing. You should be like that. I like these pop levels, like having an Explorer of 10 and a beginning population level of 5. That decreases to 1. You know, I can actually see it decreasing to 0 on the first couple of levels. Maybe we could do it like this. So the first level goes all the way to empty. The second level never quite is the first one. The second level goes down to 1. And then from then on, they're increasing every other. And this one here, yeah, this is good. Okay. I still have to go and retune the population levels to make that matter, but I like the idea of it going to 0 on the first level, so you can clear it out, make it empty. Return to entity. Something. Something about this isn't doing what it should. So if the location entity does not equal the operation entity, time cost equals 2. So that should be true. We could double check that. Do basic travel. During do travel, we do in fact run time ticks. And our time cost, I mean, the most likely explanation for this is that there's two possibilities. One explanation is that this never happens, that for some reason the operation entity and the location entity are always equal. Here it's saying set the operation entity, but it's not saying set the location entity, so it's not like we are accidentally setting them both in the payload. So I think I know what the easiest way to debug this is going to be. We're going to have to manhandle the simulation a little bit, rather than try to get there honestly. So 1278. When we do travel, we'll get there. I'm going to go into the world. To make this easier, I'm going to have enable low population. So enable enemy spawn, yes, but then I'm also going to enable a low population. So what that means is usually we determine the initial pop level using the maximum level of the region, but now we're going to use the minimum level of the region. So we're still getting some enemies, but it's the smallest number possible. And then we can pop in on the debugger, explore pretty freely. By the way, the potion should be usable right now, and it's not. This should count as a mode where I can explore. So this is also wrong. I think that it's probably getting the wrong state key. It's probably thinking we're interacting with the potion, which is not true. We picked the potion up, but we're not getting verbs that involve interaction with the potion. We're not in that sort of state. We're in the open exploration state still. And that means that the hard problem of figuring out what state we're in is harder than I gave it credit for, because we're not cleaning up, we're after ourselves the interaction pointers. We don't need them to be 0 for the system to work, or at least we haven't up until now, but we do need them to be 0 now because that's the only way we would know that there is no interaction state happening. All right, find some potions. We found a locked chest. Now traveling to that should have a time cost of 0, and it does. If I leave and I keep traveling, here are the downstairs. Did that actually cost me any time just now? Yeah, okay, it did. Potion. Good. Explore thoroughly. Explore thoroughly. That's everything. Okay. Fully explored the dungeon. If I go to the stairs going down, time cost of 3. Good. If I go to the locked chest, time cost of 3. Okay, so that part is working. So now what we want to do, by the way, we haven't seen a single enemy spawn this entire time, even though the population isn't even supposed to be 0. Kind of interesting. Let's take a look. There. There, right there. I did it wrong. I did it wrong. It makes sense now. I don't even need to do anything else. I know what's happening. So traveling between entities is going to cost 2 like I originally wanted for the design. Just thought a random choice. Encounter roll count. Here's the deal. I never set that for basic travel between items or between entities in the dungeon. So counter roll count equals 2. In this case, we can say 1 because you're kind of traveling between 2 known locations. So it's like area that you've sort of cleared or that you're familiar with. You can generally count on fewer encounters, but not 0 encounters. Okay. And then the other thing I want to figure out is why am I getting, let's walk through that. We're going to do, we're going to wait until we have travel between 2 points. For some reason, in this entire time, I can explore quickly through the whole thing, find these 2 entities that I can travel back and forth between. And I never saw an enemy the entire time, even though the population isn't supposed to be 0 yet. So something isn't working the way I think, because I would have thought that there should still be spawns happening. You know, I've spent 10 turns exploring. Each of those had 2 rolls, even though I was exploring quickly. Exploring quickly makes you get there faster, but it doesn't decrease the number of enemies that you might run into along the way. So that means I had 20 rolls, and 0 of them hit. And if I were to start doing this, I bet you we would never get one. Even though now the encounter roll count is actually still 0. Okay, that's fine. That's actually fine because that's the entity we just found. If we go here, there we go. That's more like it. Enable enemy spawn. Pop level is 0? Oh, am I dumb? I just made it so that dungeon level 1 would have a pop level of 0 at minimum. And then I've been assuming it was at a 1 this whole time. Okay, no I don't. I don't know why I was saying I liked the idea of that. At least for now, that's just not very intuitive to me. Let's put it back to that. And I should reach this line now, eventually, right? There we go. So we do, in fact, have ourselves a roll. We have 2 rolls coming up. So the roll, we're rolling an index roll. And I'm putting a 10 in here because that's the size of the dungeon. And the population level is a 1. So I have to roll a 0, which should be possible with this function. 1. Show me? 2. So no luck yet. But it should be possible. There's a 1 in 10 chance, and we roll twice every time I explore. There we go. So it does, in fact, have the ability to do enemy encounter. Now, we roll the pop level index. That's always going to give me a 0, and pop level is 1. Yeah. If X, which is 0, is less than undefeated count, it isn't. So if enemy is still 0, we spawn a new enemy for the region. So I should be encountering a bat. Yeah, okay. So I'm just wrong. It did occasionally have the ability to do an encounter. Let's do another thing now. I'm going to turn off all of the stuff that kind of goofs around with the... well, I still want lots of potions. The reason I want lots of potions is because I don't have enough stuff in the dungeon by default to make sure that there's anything to find when I explore. We should explore. So I found a potion. We should explore. Found a dog. Guard against the dogs until they fight you. And then you can fight them. Found a potion. Run from the dark oozes. Found a bat. Just fight that and hope you win. Guard against the dog until it gets aggressive, and then fight it. Found a potion. Found a locked chest. Gonna keep going. Found the stairs that go down. Go back to the locked chest. Stairs going down. Locked chest. Stairs going down. Locked chest. Stairs going down. Locked chest. Stairs going down, locked chest, stairs going down. Sooner or later, this is supposed to be able to... There we go. There's an encounter. Perfect. Okay, so it does actually have the ability to do it. If the population level gets low enough, which after I killed probably enough things to get the population level down to 1, then there's only a 1 in 10 chance on the first level to get interrupted while you're traveling between known locations. So it's not super likely, but it can happen, and it can happen more often in areas where the population level won't go down as much, as easily. Now, something I want to do is I feel like I don't like no, actually, I think I'm good with this. I was going to say I don't like the population system, but I am honestly, the only issue is it's not obvious what I could do in the short run to make it better. There's stuff I could do that would be like, it would involve investing in heavier weight tools for manipulating probability and shaping things and stuff. Yeah, we have made good progress here. We're hitting the 3rd hour. I said I was going to go for 3 to 4 hours, so somewhere in the next hour I'll probably be done. I haven't faded as hard as I thought I would an hour ago. I'm definitely a little bit below my most effective state. I'm like zoning out here and there, but I feel like I got the gas at least, even if I am not at the most efficient at burning it. I've got the gas to go, so let's go a little bit farther. So I think I have the ability to make an item, but the potion isn't working in all the contexts where it should. And I want to maybe spend some time getting a handle on that and why that's happening. So I'm just going to go in there and yeah, there we go. There's a potion. So I should be able to use it, and I can't. All I have to do to figure out why is say, okay, you find a potion and put it in your pack. That's one of these story fragments. So let's come over in here. That's the discover item story fragment. you find a blank and put it in your pack, right? So that's what it's rendering to me. If I put a breakpoint here, then my call stack will contain, the most important point, which is actually right here. And I'm just using the debugger as a navigation tool there, because I didn't want to have to use Control F. I still don't really understand Remedy's Control F feature. I have to practice that or something. Okay, here's the interesting part. We have a potion. Unfortunately, we have an interaction entity, and that's a healing potion. And that's what I was afraid of. So we need to get more disciplined about this. Let's go over here, interaction entity equals interact entity. So I'm looking for the logic dot interact entity. There we go. When combat begins, we correctly, you know what we should do is we're just gonna like maybe get real ornery about zeroing out all of these things whenever we're setting them up for controlling the state. This whole state control process that I have is super bad. Now that I've built enough of this, I know that I need to do something different. I even have a notion of what that different thing is, but I don't have the time to develop the whole idea and turn it into code. So instead, it's just going to try to be like, let's hope we can find the right spots to put the zeros into these variables here. So when combat ends, we'll stick that like that. So these I won't go and trample them. Location entity, set interaction entity. These are ways for the story fragments to control the results of clicking on things. Checking active combat. Get operation. Yeah, these are just the getters. Item stuff. Oh, I already had a free entity list. Sloppy. Here's the one we just touched. Combat record, dungeon level, in dungeon equals 1. Yeah, current fragment. Okay, here we go. Here's some interesting stuff. When I return to an entity, active item entity equals 0. Operation entity equals 0. So yep, that's good. Up here we had the operation entity and the location entity. This could have been 0. That's good. When we explore, we should clear out all of these. I think that would help. Because now the only issue is, okay, when I do explore, what happens in here? Game regular explore is the thing that actually advances the explore counter. Okay. So if you can see there are to-dos all over about fixing the entity system. If I grabbed an entity here, you can see that what I do is I always mark it as my location entity and my combat entity, and my interact entity, I mean. And that can't quite be right, because if I'm picking up an item, then it shouldn't be doing this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, whenever coming into this, we know we just started an explore, so they already got cleared to 0. What we're going to do is say this, this is a part of the default behavior. It's not a part of the item pickup behavior. Fight the rat. Crash. Okay. No breakpoints for a minute. Explore. Guard against the count until it gets aggressive and fight. Explore, fight. Explore. No breakpoints. Fight the snake. Explore. And there's the crash. What's the entity that's null? Interaction entity, discover entity. Okay, so here's the problem. I actually do need the item pickup. The item pickup works by setting the interaction entity, and then we go into discover entity. And so if we look at the key properties here, discover item is the first encounter property, which gets plopped in right here. You find a blank and put it in your pack. And then it attaches the verbs, and I'm saying decide exploration. I think I need to just stop doing it this way. So I tried to plug this in through the same thing as locked chest and stairs, and it's just not easy to make this work right now. So what I'm going to do instead is say these don't need to go through verbs or through first encounters, because they're not going to go through this whole deal of discover entity. They're going to go straight to discover item. And so discover entity is going to work as a good copy paste pattern to follow, but it's not the template. Because here we're grabbing an interaction entity. Here we're going to mark this as the active item entity. And the difference is important because That way, the active item entity will not confuse the system into thinking we're interacting with an entity. Interaction entity is for things like boxes and doors and stairs that need special verbs. When we find an item, we're just putting it in our pack automatically and then going straight into the explore decisions. So it's gonna have to just flow different. Fancy content, not necessary. You find a blank and put it in your pack, works just fine. End of paragraph, no wrap. What do you do? And instead of looking up the verbs dynamically, we just go straight into decide exploration. Right, so we just go straight into decide exploration. And so this now needs to get paired up with, in this case, when we discover an entity that counts as an item, that entity goes into the active item entity slot. Now, fight the bat, explore quickly, fight the rat, explore quickly, leave the chest, explore quickly, fight the bat, explore. Oh, I crash. Let's take a look. Legendary creatures. Enter the dungeon, explore quickly. Ooh, right away. That's convenient. So the entity is null, huh? Sadly, I don't know what entity. Oh, look at this. I didn't fix which fragment. So this directs us to this fragment. This is going to direct us to the discover item fragment from the game engine state directly. So you see what I was talking about? Initially, all the fragments linked together. You know, I'd love to draw you guys a picture. I don't have my tablet up and running. A lot of times people build a story, a game, like in a piece of interactive fiction. They think of it as, I've got some text in some states and some wires that you will move through, and then they try to work with that as their big primitive, and then, you know, there can be some like logic, some programming happening in addition to that, but that is like a key structure in the process of thinking it through. And these things here are like different from that in a key way. The way the game engine is working is it's figuring out which, there's still blobs, but the way that it figures out which blob leads, how if I'm in blob number 1 and I have verbs A, B, and C, it's not like verb A links to fragment 2 or to blob 2. What happens is verb A goes into the game engine, some thinking happens, and the game engine spits out a new blob. That's kind of how this works in a different way. And so that game engine that spins there, that can be systematic in ways that whatever game properties make sense for the sort of world you're creating with your story engine. And the mistake I made early on was to do too much stuff where I assumed I would just link nodes together directly, so that you click on a button, it links you to a different node, a different state, a different story fragment. And the better the game mechanics get, the more rich they get, the more I'm relying on the game engine setting the story fragment after doing some processing. So like here, you do some exploration. Where that exploration takes you is a result of a big complex set of things that were procedurally generated, and maybe a random decision about whether or not you had an enemy encounter, or you got to make exploration process, or a secret, you got to unlock a secret, right? And which one of those happens maybe involves some RNG, maybe involves some RNG that has already happened and is baked in, and there are differences between those things in subtle ways. And also, it might depend on, once that's all decided, like, okay, we picked out an entity and systematically have to route different states to these things. Now the problem is, I am manually setting the state like the current fragment, this current fragment thing, I'm setting it like statefully. So I have to, in the path of processing, remember to set it everywhere. What should be happening in a better system is that the game state, you throw some verb in there, it processes that, changes state, figures out what happens as a result of the turn you made, the move you made, I mean. And when the state is done changing, it then can derive from that what to show you. Right? It shouldn't have to keep a variable pointing to it. What to show you next should sort of be a function of the state of the game. That's the thing I screwed up the first time. Like, that's what I screwed up in this pass through the system. Anyway. Not that it was the wrong thing to do at the time I started. It's just that's the thing that is wrong with it now that I wouldn't do in another pass now that I know more about how I would like to build something like this. Run from the cat, explore quickly, find a potion, explore quickly, guard against the bat, fight the bat, explore quickly, find a potion, explore quickly, find a potion, explore quickly, guard against the cat, fight the cat, explore quickly. Okay, leave that. So what I need to remember is I'm trying to test this potions thing. What's supposed to happen is now this should let me interact with it, and I am not seeing that. So let's pay attention to the potions more carefully. Bat, not interested in you. Snake, harder, but not interested in you. Wild cat, you run away. Explore quickly. The cat runs away. Cat runs away. Potion. Okay, so right now I can interact with it. So that bunch is working. So when I got to this point, the state of everything was set up in such a way that it knows that I can use my potion. Using the potion doesn't do anything yet. We still have to fix that. But it knows I should be able to use my potion. So when I am at this locked chest, it doesn't say I can use my potion. And that's actually fine with me. It's a little bit goofy. I think in a fully smart system, it wouldn't make that decision. But in the current setup, it's saying, hey, you're interacting with the chest. The potion's not relevant. If you leave the chest, you're still in the area where there's a locked chest. There's no penalty to going back. But here, it should understand that I'm not interacting with the chest anymore. But it doesn't understand that, and I think I understand why now that I've gone through it and looked at it closely. The reason it doesn't understand that is when I do this leave the chest verb, this isn't some systematic feature. It's not a game action that is going into the engine and being processed. I'm just directly connecting it to the fragment that lets me continue exploration. And so none of the state of the game changes except which fragment I'm looking at. I'm just moving from one state along a wire to another state in the graph of the story. It's like inside that way of thinking. And the variables that represent like what I'm interacting with in the engine remained unchanged. So, let's see. I have a payload for this for sure. Where are my payloads? Game restarts. Set state, putter, set purpose. Set interaction. So I want to set the interaction to 0 whenever I have one of these leave verbs. So we got stairs that go down. Verbs for downstairs are the same. Verbs for upstairs are the same. So these all have a sort of similar pattern that I have not collapsed systematically. They are all things that are entities. You can leave them, and so yet that's not the same concept for each of them, right? It's not like I can change what leaving means in one place. It's not systematic. It's just a wire between one state and another in the story, right? Now I've gone and marked them all to have a little more. It also changes the state of the game engine to not have an interaction entity anymore. But yeah, it's all spread out. They're not even connected. Like the leave thing is the same everywhere or anything like that. It's just a hard-coded change in the immediate interface, not in the state. I've just had a thought of a better way to simplify it, since this might still keep coming up. I think a better, like another just safety measure I could put in to make it more likely that this jam demo version behaves well and lets you use your potion. Something I could do, like this is not that hard of a fix. State Explore is, yes, if you're interacting with some entities, they enable certain things like keys working. And so when I go to use this, I want to use the key option here. But I think what I might do is I might say, let's actually do it this way. Let's say there's a backup state key. This is not beautiful, but I think it'll work. Yeah, and so if we wanted to, we could have lookup codes be a thing that looks like this, right? We have lookup codes. 0 is the normal one, the one that uses the state we calculated, and then the backup state key is, hey, if you're not in combat, then just as a backup, pretend you're in this explore state, because anything that's not combat, if you're interacting with an entity, like you're looking at a door or stairs or a box, it would make sense to let you use your potions, even though they don't deal with the box. Like the idea of what using a potion means would still make sense. I think that would be true of most items that, since some of them require combat to even make sense, if they're going to say like deal damage or blink the enemy away from you. But things that make sense when you're just walking about make sense in combat, or make sense in like interactions with entities that you can leave. Like if I can leave and come back freely, then I'm basically walking about. Right, so if I have a box where I can look at the box and interact with it, or I can leave the box and go somewhere else, then looking at the box and interacting with it is sort of a conceptually similar to being able to explore freely in a deep, like in a storytelling sort of way. So if I'd done a better job, I wouldn't need to do this weird approach to solving the problem. But I think this is just a good safety measure that says, like, if the backup state key is has a value other than null, let's just say that we have like two different, we'll just try twice. And the second one will be this more generic state explore thing. So if you don't find an action that you can do with the current entity you're interacting with, then just assume you can do what you normally do with it. That's the sort of thought. right? And we'll put up a lookup code count here, and we can go like this: lookup code count plus equals 1 plus equals 1. Put this in brackets, absorb those brackets, lookup code count, lookup codes I, and so there we go. Now we just use the switch twice with a state key and a backup key. And so if one of those fixes didn't work, maybe the other one will. Leave, fight the snake, got a potion, fight the bat, explore quickly, getting lots of potions, fight the bat. Explore quickly, you got a potion, you find a set of stairs that leads further. There's a set of stairs that lead. A set of stairs that leads. A set of stairs that lead further down. That's such an interesting sentence because you could take either the set or the stairs as having the verb, because we've already got the main object. Like, here's our subject is you. You find, what did you find? A set of stairs. And now that leads further down means that it's the set that leads further down. But that lead further down means it's the stairs that lead further down. So find a set of stairs that lead further down. I like saying it out loud better than you find a set of stairs that leads further down. Now that I've read it both ways out loud. Leave. I want to go to the stairs. It says I could use a potion. I leave. I go to the locked chest. It says I could use a potion. Okay. So we can use potions in the context where we're supposed to be able to use potions now, but they don't actually do anything when we use them. Let's fix that part. Oh man, drink potion action isn't doing anything. Right, so if we go through this and we actually use an item, that it needs to be consumed, then let's go ahead and say, and things get a little sloppy again because I use items by saying the item key, but in this case I actually have the pointer to the item entity, so I'm losing information. It's going to scan through and find the same item entity I already had. I could make a different version where I could just tell it what item to use, but let's not. Let's use the system we have. I have to be careful. I don't want to. I could also say let's not do the separate variable thing. The only reason I'm not is I want to watch out. I want to watch out because this item pointer is currently in my inventory, but if I use the last item of that type, it would move. And right now it would still be a valid pointer. But oh boy, it just hit me. I am now fading out. So our time is getting limited. We'll make a little more progress, but yeah, that was the moment where I ran out of gas. Yeah, it just makes me a little nervous that the item could be changing in here. Thank you. Yes, I've worked hard. I feel very good about it. I think that this is going to use the item. Unfortunately, I don't have an easy way to take damage yet. If I just wait, I think the snipes... no, because the Beast Slayer gets a little, like, boost in his fighting scores, so he can't get hurt by anything on the first dungeon level that I designed. And those are the only monsters I added so far. So I can't actually take any injuries to see this go to 0 from 1, unless I buff the enemies a little bit. Or, you know what I could do? Here's the easiest option. This will be the last thing I do, and I will say goodbye if this works. And I'll probably stream tomorrow evening, at least a little bit. I don't know. It's tough. I have to share the internet bandwidth with another person who likes to stream for fun, so we'll see. It might be better if I don't and just stay heads down and fill in some, do some iterations on the items and enemies and stuff tomorrow. Tomorrow's my last day on the 7-day part of the jam, and then I'm going to be slowing down, pulling back, and continuing for the rest of the month like I originally planned, but not at quite the same pace I've been at. Yeah, what we can do is debuff the Beast Slayer for testing purposes. He should be able to get... he should be able to get hit if we do something like that. Take some damage. Alright, bat. I'm gonna have a hard time hitting the bat. Okay, the bat injured me once. I can't... Okay, there we go. I got away from the bat. The bat has a good chance to, like, leave you alone if you run away, so that was good. I think if I make the enemies tough enough, this game actually suddenly gets interesting, because you got to start learning these behaviors. Like, okay, the bat can be too tough for you, but you can also succeed at running away. Wild cat, if I run, the cat won't chase me. If I run, he bit me. If I guard, the bat might leave me alone. Okay. Run from the cat, I can get away. Run from the cat, I can get away. So this is cool and all. But I am now having no luck at all. Okay, there we go. I found a potion. Boom! Oh yeah. Okay. Alright. I think this might be the first sign of fun in this system. The fact that it repeatedly gave me cats for so many rounds and it looked like I was stuck in the loop. Stuff like that always makes me nervous in this design. Something about this design makes repeated... If the system repeats the same thing to you more than once or twice, it feels like you found at least to me, maybe it's just because I'm an anxious person who I program this, so I'm anxious that there are bugs. It makes me feel like I'm stuck in the loop, that I'm soft locked somehow. But that was just a freak chance of getting the same encounter and it constantly deciding to show me the cat again and again. Which might have just been partly because it was it also has a mechanism for showing you things reusing an entity that it's already used. So if you damage something but end up running away or it runs away, you might find it again and it will still have the same damage you put on it, right? I wanted it to be able to be like the entities you've seen before that represent enemies you haven't killed are still there and still have the effects you've put on them. So it could have been that or something. But there's the second problem that the screen looks identical. Like, it's possible for the same exact screen to come at you multiple times, even though the state has actually changed. Which is a problem. Like, you at the very least need to see it fade in and out or fade out and back in so that you know that it is, in fact, seeing your button clicks and doing something and not just, like, frozen. So maybe those are some polished things that I should get to, but I don't think I'll do them now. I might do them first thing tomorrow. But there were some signs there that this could be fun. If you start playing and the first level is very easy, and in the second level you start having feelings like that, like, oh crap, these things are killing me, but I found a potion and oh god, maybe I have a chance again. I think this could be fun. Um, I think this could. I think this that was cool. That's the first sign of fun. I have to make sure that it's not. I have to make sure that the balance is good. I guess is what I'm saying. That there's a chance. It was like I've been playtesting on this Beast Slayer on the first dungeon level, which I had originally designed to be like the Beast Slayer just can come in and isn't in danger in the first level, and maybe I'll keep it that way. But since that's all I've built so far, it didn't really feel like I had achieved any fun with the design, and so it's a little nice to see that there's a chance of tension and like a plan working out after all. Anyway, like I said, that's it for me today. Thank you so much if you've been hanging out. If you were hanging out earlier, I probably most people who hung out with me this morning aren't here because it's so long ago. I do apologize for the fact that we got interrupted. I'm sure I'm the most miffed about it, but my power went out and I was hoping to spend all day hanging out with you guys working on this, and I had to lose about 4 hours of it. But we have gotten we've gotten good stuff done anyways, and I have hope that this will be good enough. I'll be proud to submit this, even though it is still very experimental and sloppy and a demo. It's a prototype of a demo of an idea that I have not figured out how to make work yet. It is still good enough, I think, at this point that I'm very close to feeling like this is worth submitting. So yeah, that is fun. I can't promise that I'll stream tomorrow, but I'll try. And besides that, if you want to see my projects and stuff, you can find more about me and what I'm up to over at MrForth.com. I've got some of my code on git.mrforth.com, and new stuff coming out from time to time. And after this week on Sunday, when I submit for this jam, I might take a break from streaming for Monday. But when I get back, I will get back to my other projects like the SAT Solver and stuff too. So if you're into programming topics, more variety is coming back at the end of this week. Or after this week. So thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all around. Bye bye.